Blakey and Tux, they're talking Cardiff City and some other stuff. Blakey and Tux, Dolly asked the questions on Blakey's Bootroom. Will always be blue.
Hello, welcome to Blakey's Bootroom. I'm Gareth Rogers, back in the seat with Nathan Blake and Steve Tucker. As ever, talking Cardiff City, and we're looking positive. We promise.
Are we?
Okay, for anyone who saw it last night, it was a 1-0 FA Cup defeat at the hands of the mighty Shrewsbury. Steve, you were there. Can you describe that in one word? Or?
Dreadful.
Okay, take a few more words.
A few more words. We got an hour.
Yeah,
afford a few more words.
Let's do a few more than
I don't know where you start with that. I mean, if someone had come in, if I'd come in and someone said, "Oh yeah, this is like a League 2 game or like a League 1 relegation battle," which is what Shrewsbury involved in, I would have believed them. I said, "Oh right, you're going, they're giving it a good go, these guys, or whatever." An absolute dearth of quality. No idea how to put the ball in the net. I blame Russell Slade. I think there were too many. You're surprised to hear that. I thought there were too many changes to the side that had played Blackburn. I saw no reason to rip up the team sheet and go with 9 changes. It's total disrespect for the cup. Came round to bite him on the bum, and they got what they deserved, which was absolutely nothing. And as for the stadium and the crowd, well, that was absolutely pathetic, and it is just another symptom of, I mean, something Blakey's been on over, just the kind of malaise that's surrounding the club, the inertia. You know, you talk about a cup run, and Russell Slade's kicks you on, gives you a bit of confidence, you're going a bit of excitement, you're going to get the next round, kicks you on then for the league campaign. Yeah. Thrown away. Yeah. Just a embarrassing moment for the club that is bound to have repercussions moving forward in the Championship, even if the players who feature in the Championship weren't actually on the pitch at the time. Very, very disappointing, and from a managerial point of view, pathetic.
Where did it all go wrong, Blakey?
I think trying to or believing that you're something that you're not, right? Mm-hmm. So 9 changes, as Tux mentioned. I'm all for development. Cardiff have got to listen. The problems. People might say I'm a negative person or I'm negative towards Cardiff, but I only speak on what I find. Right? I've got friends at other clubs, bigger, smaller, and I can speak to you about good situations and bad situations. Bolton, bad situation right now. Chelsea, fantastic situation right now. They're all different. Cardiff at the moment, it's a melee. It's just, for me, yesterday was the ideal opportunity where you take 6 or 7 of your first team players and you add 3 or 4 of your 21 players. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Or you take your first team and start, get yourself in front, and then you introduce young players. Ravel, I don't get that one. I don't get bringing him back. Okay, family reasons, what have you, but I don't understand playing him. It's almost Russell Slade saying, if he went and got a hat-trick, I could then kind of, I could defeat everyone who said he wasn't good enough, and he might. It was almost like a last-ditch attempt to try and prove.
A striker being given so many chances and failed
like a
to take it.
Last-ditch attempt to prove you all wrong and I'm right on this signing. So Cardiff at the moment, as I've mentioned in the column for the last 2 or 3 weeks, they've got. It's not a crisis, but they've got no consistency. A consistent winning team, you can mess around with a bit, 3 or 4 players here and there, 2 players who haven't played so much this season, like drop Whittenham back in, and then drop a youngster on the left wing, or drop a youngster at right back, or put a youngster at right back, something like that. So you're starting to develop from within as well. So you use that. If the manager or the club think that that club is in that situation, okay, that's all I need to know, right?
Yep.
Enough's enough. I'm not going to drill anyone or say this or that. If you think that that's the situation of that club, then I understand why the club is where it's at.
But Steve,
It's
you
as
said
simple as that.
you blame Russell Slade. I mean, I'm reading comments.
Well, I blame the players.
Everyone's
as well,
blaming
by the way.
Russell Slade.
I don't just. No, I just think I've been a defender of Russell Slade. I have, because I think he came in, like, as I've said plenty of times, I think he came in under a cloud that he's never managed to shake off. I'm not saying he's ripped up any things and going, wow, I told you so. But I mean, he's kind of bounced along, bumbled along. I just thought he didn't respect the cup.
Exactly. Yeah.
And he got what he deserved. Absolutely nothing. And I find FA Cup third round weekend for me, I know there were some good games and I know they were playing passionate atmospheres. And maybe it's a bit because Cardiff now, back in the old days, do you remember this guy? This guy apparently once scored. No, but this guy apparently once scored a goal. You know, remember?
Against
and all that.
Middlesbrough.
Against somebody, right? Yeah, against somebody. Right. But I mean, maybe the fact is now, say you did get Liverpool, say you did get Chelsea. Yeah. You know, that's not such a big deal either, is it? You know, so I understand that, but I hate what's happening to the FA Cup. I do. I think it's being marginalised. And I tell you what. I blame it on Man United. Remember all those years back when they were allowed to pull out of the FA Cup? That was the beginning of the downward spiral.
I would say,
and that Cardiff treating it with contempt. Well, I never thought I'd see the day.
I would say I don't think there's many clubs who do now. I think we went through that period where Man United, they got to that point where they were saying so much Champions League and everything, we're winning the league every year. They kind of belittled it. But they came back off that. They did. Towards the end of last 5-6 years of Fergie's reign, they did come back off and come back into, right, it was an important cup. Because when you don't win the league, it is, and you're not in the Champions League, it is the next most important thing. Do you understand me? So Arsenal have found that. You know, it's kept the Wolves from the door for Arsene Wenger for 2 seasons, winning it back to back. Now
6 times.
The only team when I was playing, the only team that would field a lot of youngsters were Arsenal, and they were known for it. They do it in the other cup as well. They develop the youngsters through that system, and then tend to put 2 or 3 of them who do well into the first team or have them on the periphery of the first team. But like I said, Cardiff are not in that situation, and a disappointing thing. 2 disappointing things. One was I couldn't believe the crowd. I just said to you, I thought there must have been some sort of, I don't know, fire or police or stop people going in.
Or something.
So what happened? There was some paint drying outside. A lot of people had left to go and have a look.
But that, for me, that was unbelievable. But then, like Tuxer said, people disrespecting the cup. If you look at the other 30-odd games over the Friday, Saturday, the atmospheres were unbelievable.
It was like the good old days.
You know, there was the only team I would say who made major changes who I seen were Liverpool, and that's because it was forced. Everyone else.
Oh, the atmosphere at that one Friday night.
It was unbelievable, wasn't it?
Yeah.
The Jacks yesterday against Oxford. What an atmosphere! So I was thinking to myself, this is, regardless of the result, it's going to be a proper ding-dong epic.
Yeah.
I can honestly say, mate, that was the first time I felt like, that's embarrassing.
Yeah.
Now, you know, I don't know the reason why people aren't going or didn't go. I've said last week, I think it's not as simple as 1 or 2 issues. I think yesterday, looking at the crowd and the atmosphere, and then that just summed up the overall position of the club for me yesterday. That spoke volumes. And if Tux last week was saying about fans going back and this and that and this and that, I don't think it's as easy as that. John Dole said, well, they've apologised, shouldn't you just move forward? If you think it's that easy, you're sadly mistaken. Like I said, the fan is probably the hardest person to get rid of at your club.
Yep.
they are so loyal. They die for the cause. They cry. They name their kids after players. They name their kids after clubs. It's rooted in years and years. My father took me, and my father's father took him, and that's the tradition. It goes over 100 years. Now, for someone to just stop coming, it's not because he changed kit or because he done this or because he done. It feels like you've been beaten so much that I tell you, I just close my eyes and go to sleep. If I wake up, I wake up. If I don't.
Everyone's got other reasons. That's the thing.
Everyone's got their reasons. Yeah, exactly.
It's not like this is the reason.
I know people. I got texts on my phone now from people saying, that's enough. Enough's enough.
Yeah.
I got texts on my phone from fans who fight amongst each other. I got texts on my phone from old boys who've been travelling for 50, 60 years who are now saying, on our coach, we usually have 19 boys on the coach, we can't fill it.
Yeah.
For away trips.
Get 9, do
you know what I mean? And then someone said to me yesterday, do you think a Bellamy okay, that might solve the immediate problem of the fans not liking the manager, but does it solve the overall problem of you trying to get back to the Premier League? If you listen, he might surprise.
What do you think would happen if by some miracle, because it might take a bit of a miracle, Cardiff got up to the Premier League? Do you think? No. Do you think? No. But okay, just purely hypothetically. Say they did.
Okay.
Do you think the crowds would return?
No.
Next
I
season?
think that's where you missed the point last week. I really do. I think you thought a lot of it was just about Russell Slade and Tux. The boys I speak to, the women I speak to, I get people sitting in a jacuzzi talking to me.
That's for another show.
I was in my mates.
I don't want to know about your porn career, honestly, man.
I was in my mate's tile factory a couple of weeks ago. A gentleman stopped me and started talking to me about
not jacuzzi tile,
about the situation in the club. I found myself, sometimes I was out over Christmas in Cardiff for the boys' night out. Get people, they're half coming up and trying to talk. But they get so upset like that when they had a bit.
Blakey, that was me. That was at the Christmas party.
Listen, John said to me, so what would you do? Like I said before, it's not something as simple as a quick fix. No. The answer is, for me, get back out into the communities and talk to these fans and go with a bucket list of the things that you've done wrong. Apologise for those things, but then give them some sort of foresight and vision on where the club is going in the future, because it has 170 or 180 or probably more now debt on it, and it's just drifting at the moment.
But that was the thing. I mean, people know about my emotional rant last week or whatever, whether you're into it or not. I
loved it.
I think good or whatever. But I thought one thing I didn't mention, and Blakey sort of said it there, I think, which is they're in danger of losing a generation now, in the sense that my stepdad took me down. Everybody's got their uncle took them down, their granddad took them down. You get to a point where these diehard fans are going, I ain't going. Well, they ain't taking their kids down. They ain't taking their nieces and nephews down. They ain't taking their younger brother. And if they're not careful, this malaise carries on. Got a lost generation of Cardiff fans there, and people who don't like people walking around in Man U shirts and Liverpool shirts in Cardiff, they might be seeing a lot more of it because.
But it's not just as Real Madrid and Barcelona and teams like that.
I know it's all globalised now, so there is a real danger. Yeah. But I still do stand by the fact that I think there is a responsibility of the fans of the club. But I agree. Being there last night, I am looking at it saying, "What on earth is going on
here?" It's bigger, mate.
I know all the reasons. I know everyone's got their reasons. I know it's money, and I know all that.
And there's so many reasons. It's hard to say to one person, well, I can satisfy. This is where it's gone now. It's kind of like burst its banks. It's hard to say to Gaz, well, the changes I've made are going to satisfy you. They might satisfy you, but they won't satisfy Mark. They might satisfy Mark, but they won't satisfy Steve. Do you know what I mean? So
every time I write an article, that's what I get.
It's so
5 people might agree, 50 people would disagree because they say, no, it's not that. It's this. This is the problem. And they say I had the same conversation with my dad.
A lack of leadership and a lack of direction, and whether the club board, chief exec, owners, whether they like it or not, that's your problem. You know what I mean? And all the little statements I keep saying, all the quick fixes. They said last week, John and Steve about like the £10 for a adult and £5 for a kid, and isn't that going around?
Looks like a rip-off now.
Well,
It does.
you know,
Well, I wouldn't
there's
take
your
my kids.
answer.
There's no way would I have taken
Well,
my kids
there's
there
your
last
answer.
night. They
If you
would
think
never
that's the
wanted to go again.
problem, there's your answer,
Yeah.
because they've just told you with their feet.
Even if
I
they
don't
paid
care
me.
if it's £1, even if they paid you,
Yeah,
right?
you wouldn't take your own kids to
Right.
put them through that, because
Right.
there's no way would they want
Right.
to go back. Anyway, some great
Let's
comments
get
coming
the
in.
comments from the
Paul,
boys.
Paul says, enough is enough. I've been going 20 years. If Slade is still in charge, I won't be going till he's sacked. He's a dinosaur. Wayne says, if Cardiff played Oxford, they'd put 7 past us. Carl says, Russell Slade was given the job to lead us and provide leadership and consistency. He's done neither. Russell Slade's the guys everyone's talking about. I mean, where do you think he stands now, Steve?
I do think that he's in trouble. I think there might be elements within the club itself that make me think that he's in trouble. We're not very happy.
Yeah, well, I understand.
And particularly after last night, and particularly with things like team selection and that.
Can I just say though, like we're sat 9th in the league, I think 4 points outside the playoffs, something like that. And don't you think that? Listen, I'm not advocating Russell Slade for 1 minute. You know what I mean? But don't you think that's a cop out by the club?
No, but maybe.
To say right now, I tell you what, the problem is then we need to change the manager. That is just part of the problem.
But,
Do you understand what I mean? It would be nice for the owner to come and be seen at the club from time to time and make people believe I'm still investing. If you're not investing, then my plan is, the strategy is, we're going to develop from the 21 and 18s. We're going to give you your own players through our other means, rather than just financial buy. One way or the other, one of them or both of them together are the only way forward for the club.
Well, I think,
but you've got to have a plan. You've got to have a strategy.
That's the long-term one. I mean, Steve, to be fair, was talking about the short-term one is the manager. And
I do think a new manager would inject new life. It always does, particularly if it was somebody like Craig Bellamy or I don't know.
But I'm looking for a manager that's going to give you the opportunity, the experience
done it.
to go and get. Look, I've spoken to Craig. I'm not saying now. I spoke to him.
Oh,
prior
but I'm
to
not saying he's
Christmas.
ideal. I'm just saying that's the kind of name.
Yeah, but why?
Because fans love him.
Yeah,
and they would want to go and see a side managed by him.
But fans love many ex-players. It don't make them good managers.
No, I just think that Craig's probably doing.
You're in a position now. Listen where you are as a club. You had 4,000 fans last night, right? Craig goes in with the lack of inexperience, just like Solskjaer did, and it goes pear-shaped. Where are you then? You're on the brink of gone.
I'm not even
Oblivion.
okay. I'm not even advocating getting rid of Russell Slade. I never have. In fact, I think if you look back on this, I've been one of his biggest sort of supporters in many ways, saying, you know, with giving the benefit of the doubt. All I can say is, I believe that he's treading a thin line.
Yeah,
right
I mean,
now.
you're the guy that's there. You're the guy that's.
I know. I
spends
mean,
more time than most inside that
I
club.
speak to people.
You're doing the
too much
sentence.
time. Too much time.
You're the guy doing the sentence.
I know. I'll get some time off for good behaviour soon, but well, I doubt it. But I'm just saying that right now, I think there's a feeling within the club of apprehension about Slade moving forward.
So we'll talk about the bigger issues in a minute, Blakey. But right now, we're talking about Slade. I mean, you know, there's loads of different opinions on here. I mean, you know, like Keith is saying, is it really Slade or is it Tan's fault? The Yanto, brilliant comment. Sorry, Blakey, I'd be embarrassed to go up with this team. Dylan says, even if somehow Slade got us over the line to the Premier League, he's not going to keep us there. It's just, there's no faith in the guy. But what would you do? Do you keep him till the end of the season? Do you?
I think when it's like I always say, I don't say, oh, sack this manager, sack that manager. I think from a club's perspective, when you're yesterday, listen, if that wasn't a shot over your bar, then I don't know what you need to see. For me, it's clearly having an adverse effect on everything, isn't it? So you're at the time now where, okay, do you start releasing kind of rumours where you know there's going to be change in the summer, so people got that to look forward to, or do you just say, right, draw the line and say, right, we need to move on? Even if it gets 3,000, 4,000 people back through the gate, then we'll do that. Like, because
it's progress.
at this moment, we're in fear of falling off the edge of a cliff.
Sacking Slade right now would provide the club with a shot in the arm.
Yeah.
Wow.
There's no doubt of that. Whether I think he should be sacked or not,
Yeah.
all I'm saying is it
The
would,
general
it would be
consensus
seen
is-
as
yeah,
a boost
that is
to
the
the
general
club right
consensus.
now. If they were to announce this afternoon and say Russell Slade's been fired,
People go away.
there would be it would re-energise the club. I'm sorry, but that's the
I don't think
situation
there's
that we
any
find
doubt.
ourselves in.
Just look, even people that don't blame Slade, I still think that would.
Yeah, that's true.
would
That
give
is
you an
true.
injection.
They just don't
People
think he's good
blame him.
enough.
Don't
He's done
support him.
He's done a decent job.
They
Yeah,
don't support him.
Yeah, there's
no
very few.
supporters. There's no. You could go out in the street for the next 6 hours and go, "Excuse me, do you watch Cardiff City? Yes. Do you think Russell Slade's a great man?" You'd be there all day trying to find one person. You'd go through 100 slaggings of him off, but that's the situation they found him in. Hey, he wasn't wanted there. And he's changed nobody's minds, and the brand of football has won nobody over.
Well, Hayden makes a point here. He says, basically you get shot of Slade today and give Paul Trollope a go till the end of the season. I mean, would that excite people? Would that get
I
in
don't think it
interest?
excites people. I just think they'd feel like, right, you'd be looking for who the next manager is then, because he's just going to be interim. Who's going to be the next manager? And then the rumours would start and build excitement and blah. So, I don't think Paul Trollope is the answer. Yeah, but I understand I think he'd be capable of managing it till the end of the season. Yeah,
people would be more excited than they would be
Although,
if they just went out and said,
I always worry about those situations. I always say get the manager in as soon as possible.
like
I think looking at down road, someone who's been at the club 40 odd years, all of a sudden, what happens?
could turn into a villain
you
rather
go and
than
lose
hero
6-7
very
games on the
quickly.
spin. What happens?
Yeah.
Do you move back into a backroom position?
Yeah.
Or
Does he go under a cloud?
Well, he
and
has
spoil
to,
the whole
doesn't
thing?
he?
Yeah.
Do you know what I
like
mean?
Gary Monk done.
Well, he has to.
Yeah,
Gary
it's
Monk was there for 12 years.
Yeah.
Okay, the other man, Kurt, is there a lot longer.
Yeah.
But that's what I'm saying. That inconsistency just creates so much drama and so much what ifs and maybes, and do you know what I mean? And everyone knows football. You just need a straight line, straight talking.
Steve
plan.
says Nigel Pearson would sort the club out. Go and get him. Again, I'm not even sure he would excite people. I mean, at least he's one that's been there and done it. That's what you're talking about. Okay.
I'm not even on about the appointment after. I'm saying the sacking of Slade would energise the club.
So many
I'm not even
people.
sure anyone's thinking ahead that far as who was replacing, but it would be
So to
such
say
a
that
collective
Slade
sigh
is
of
not
It's
the
become
plan.
just a thing now.
It would
They'll
be
just
such a
get rid of
collective-
him.
The club accepted
such a
he's not the
collective
answer.
sigh of relief
Yeah.
that he'd gone that the next then people were, wow, great, okay, hang on, we got to get someone else in.
And you know him closer than most. Deep down, does he think that this is
Deep down.
deep
Go
down?
deeper,
Is he
I
thinking I'm out of my
think
depth here?
he
What was that little thing you just done?
That was my Jamiroquai shuffle. Do you remember Jamiroquai? You had a hat like that. You remember? You had that,
This is the
cat in the hat. Virtual insane. I think Slade is feeling the pressure.
Yeah.
Oh, he's got to.
But I think he's really feeling the pressure, and might have to give.
He'd probably love to go back to a job where there's not so much.
Expectation.
I think those who said the job's too big for him and the jump up's too far for him are being completely vindicated by what's happening.
Yeah, well, he blamed the players sort of last night, didn't he? And let's look at some of them. Some of the players that started last night: Makeda, Amiobi, Ravel, O'Keefe, Tamas, Whittingham, Dickachoy. They were all in the shop window. They all, that was their chance to say, A, either I'm ready to play, I'm good enough to play, or B, I'm good enough to get a move.
There's
Unless
nobody.
not one of them did
None of them there could go to Slade's office and knock on the door and say, hang on, what about Hull? You saw what I did there. None of them were justified to do that. If they were in the shop window, if there's any managers or agents or whatever, or scouts looking at that there or watching it on the telly, you'd be thinking, well, unless you were at like a League 2 club or something, you might think, they could do a job for us. But nobody at any comparable level is going to be.
The worry for me is like so many players are underperforming. That is my big worry. So many players have come to the club over the last 2 or 3 years and underperformed. Left the club, some of them, and started performing. Do you know what I mean? That is my biggest. That comes down to not just a management problem, but a structural problem for me, all over. You know, players who come, no one's. Like I said to you, I think it was last week or the week before. There doesn't seem to be this affiliation between, this love between players and fans anymore.
It's a connection.
Where fans would kind of tell you off during the game. You know, shift your backside, Blakey, or Eddie, sort them out. Or do you know what I mean? You actually felt, you know, like your big brother was shouting at you or something like that. Like, you know what I mean? There doesn't seem to be those players who are hero
it's just
worship.
Booing. It's just a bad pass.
Or a chance and you don't know what you're doing.
It doesn't seem to be. Now that's a whole team playing last night, and there's no one who they got like hero worship for. To me, we're just like that's all I can say. We're just drifting, mate.
Of the players I just mentioned, Ravel, O'Keefe, Tamas, you say, there's not much expectation.
Tamas was signed in the summer.
Yeah, but Makeda and Amiobi are two players of supposed Premier League quality, and last night, those two in particular.
Amiobi, you said was decent.
I thought he was half decent. I didn't think he did too badly. I thought he had he made lots of mistakes, but I thought at least he had a bit of energy. He hit the post.
He's not going to go and play in the Premier League.
No, goodness, no. Well, I mean, this.
Well, this is what you. This is again. Ask yourself the question. Someone who's come down as a really exciting prospect from a big Premier League club comes to us and has just died.
Yeah.
Why?
Well, it's incredible, isn't it? Absolutely incredible.
Yet another player who's come in and hasn't performed. You know, you go through so many of them. That Guerra geezer, the Spanish lad, come in, not so. Lafondra came in, left, gone on loan, scoring goals at Bolton, what have you. You know, the lad from Leeds, who's now at Leeds, Adeyemi, come here. Never really. It was like I don't really feel at home here.
Yeah, well,
never given time
Doyle
to
was
settle
a goal
in.
machine. This time last year, Doyle scored. Scored.
Right. I don't understand what's going on at the club for the players that all come. Name me 3 players who've come in. Well, I can only say Watt and Kenwyn Jones to a degree. Watt to a degree because he's not scoring like. Crazy amount of goals or anything like that. So name me a player who's come in over the last 3 seasons and have got like hero worship stand now.
Not one.
And there's been how many signings?
Well, there's not even
in
one
the last 3 years?
There's not even one player in that squad.
There's a fundamental
David Marshall
There's a fundamental problem within the club. I'm telling you now. Whether they like it or not, whether they want to hear it or not. This game, if you think it's just simply about having more cash than your neighbour, then you're going to come and get your comeuppance, which is what's happening.
What's happening right now. Keith says he's telling us off for making Slade the scapegoat. He's saying the real problem is Tan. I mean, I don't want to go into this too much, but if you were Mr. Tan today, what do you do? To either of you?
Sell the club and give it to someone who has a real. You know, you can't say he hasn't got an interest in it because he's got so much money invested in it. But, you know, the staying away, it's not going to make people say, oh, well, you should come back. They're going to say, okay, stay away for good then. Sell the club, move on.
Either come back and respect.
Either come back, give us a strategy, put a plan in place, and try and deliver Premier League football. And even if you miss out, as long as we can see that the club is trying, they'll be behind it all the way. If not, sell it, move on. Let someone else take over it. And don't get me wrong, I'm not saying that you might find yourself in a better situation. You might find yourself in a worse situation. But right now, it's nothing. I keep saying, going back to the same statement, we're like a piece of driftwood. No one really knows what's going on.
The problem with selling it, Steve, isn't it, that who are you going to sell it to? And in that amount of debt,
you have to have a spare 200 million or something.
Or he's going to have to be prepared to lose a fortune.
Yeah.
Debt
to equity.
I think the latter is more likely, to be honest with you, because I don't see. If you look at that squad, if you look at the team that played yesterday and the team that played last week, and then the stadium, and you calculate your figures, if you can get 100 million out of there, then you've done unbelievably well. If you get 70 million, I think you're then getting probably around about what everything is worth as a collective. You're 100 million down, no matter what, you're 100 million down, you're not going to find it.
And this is all part of the problem as well. I mean, we talk about low crowds till the cows come home, and that's all part. Another thing that's part of the problem, that's just adding to all this, is this pitch. What's going on here? How is that being allowed?
I don't know what happened.
There was some talk of, like, Russell Slade last night was saying something about they were going to do something to it. It was hinting that it's going to be relayed now. I don't know how they would do this feat of engineering
very quick,
but so quickly. But
no one ever.
Considering they had weeks in the summer, and that was too small a time scale. So how are they going to fit it in the middle of a championship? But Slade seems to suggest that something could be done. But the pitch is absolutely diabolical.
But the Shrewsbury players were complaining about it.
I can't believe it.
I mean, they got a decent set of turf up there.
Exactly. Players like that. I mean, I felt sorry for them. I also feel sorry for Slade, in fairness, this season is trying to get a passing game going, and they're having to play on that. It just doesn't look good.
It wasn't relayed last summer. Blah de blah blah. Too much rain. Blah de blah blah. Ground staff. Blah de blah blah.
You look at the state of Oxford's pitch. It was immaculate, and they've had the same amount of rain.
I know.
But anyway, let's just try and get some positive. I mean, you alluded earlier. Blakey City are 9th, 4 points off the playoff. Is this season still salvageable?
Yeah, I think so. We can concentrate on the league now. There's your plus point. There's your plus point. I think there's just I mean, I think the bit of, like I said last week, good manoeuvring in January. Sorry to come back to Slade again, but the problem Slade has as well, forget on the pitch, I think the signings he's made so far, I know he's had little money, but I think on the whole, they've been so poor that there's a reluctance within the club to kind of trust him in the January transfer window. I think a lot. I honestly would say a lot of the dealing is being done above his head.
I think that reluctance, that is part of the problem. Who above him has ever dealt in transfers of players before?
Yep, nobody.
Who above him has ever been involved in football before?
Not really anybody.
So what are you looking for? What's your club philosophy?
I think there's
how do you want to play? Advisors are from who?
From people within the game that the board constantly seek, like Vincent Tan and people like the chairman.
So then it's so fragmented. It's got to come from. It's got to be a collective agreement between your manager and those persons then who sign the players. You've got to have an overall philosophy first and foremost. And then you've got to have players who fit into how you're going to play. That's what I was saying to you yesterday. The chances of us going in January now and picking a player up that's going to change anything is very, very, very doubtful. If you don't have a plan, you don't have a strategy, you don't have a philosophy, you kind of just buy as you go along, which is what's happened over the last 3 years. Hence why I think that is one of the major problems why so many players are coming in and not doing well and then leaving and then doing okay when they leave, is because there's no thought and planning into how they're going to fit into a system. There's no good playing bringing in wingers who largely have no pace to go outside, but largely come inside and put a 6'4" striker who's brilliant in the air up front. Okay, he will get goals, but you're not buying players or got players that play to his strengths. Do you understand what I mean?
Exactly.
If you've got a little number nine,
knowledge,
like
I can understand that. Yeah.
You've got two wingers like Pilkington who likes to come inside and Noon who likes to come inside and play off a little man. Then your game is based around movement. Yeah. A lot of movement, pass back. Right. But if you've got a 6'4", you want to be looking at wingers who can get down the flanks and get balls in. Do you know what I mean?
Give him a chance to get.
And then you've got your midfielder like someone like, I don't know whether it's Dick Choi or whoever, breaking into the box, the other winger from the other side bringing the box.
Wasn't much evidence of that last
night. Do you ever get the impression he's still looking for their best side?
Yeah.
In January.
Yeah.
Hence searching for their best side.
Hence why you see Makeda. That's why I believe you see Makeda and Ravel up front yesterday. Yeah. I honestly do.
Still thinks of playing one of them.
Yeah, because Kenwin's gone. He's thinking, I need a striker. I'm desperate for a striker.
You say loads of players down recently. You suggested players Guerra and who've never been given a chance. How many chances has Ravel? The guy started the season. How many more chances do you want? I mean, I can't. You say please go and do this. He's had this more lives than a.
Let's talk about Tony Watt. Tony Watt is seemingly the one that he might have got right. It seemed from what I was reading last night and today that Slade's a bit worried about that deal.
I don't think all. I said to you yesterday there, I don't think all is. I think a lot of stuff that's being spoken about by the club is a bit of mismanagement, to be fair. I think what they're doing is trying to cover a lot, trying to make out that they're doing this or doing that, and I don't think there's much going on, to be honest with you, if I'm totally honest. I don't expect to see anything major side. No, because when you're in the game, you've been in the game, you understand, you wait for rumours and you know, right, and you speak to people in the press, and you speak to one or two mates you got at the club, and you start, mate, what I'm hearing is very different to what Tux is hearing then. I don't expect there to be major signings. And if you look at the situation with the owner, why would you give the Russell Slade now 5-6 million quid to go and sign players?
It doesn't make sense. Nobody ever said it was going to be 5-6 million quid. I do expect.
Well, you're not going to get much for less than that here. What are you going to get for 2 or 3 million quid?
That's what they're going to have to do.
So, what's your reading of what situation? Do you think, is it a done deal or?
I think they want it to be a done deal. I think there's been a deal in place for ages. I think it's a matter of getting it over the line. From what I can gather, his loan spell ends after the Wolves game on Saturday.
Yeah.
Cardiff want to announce that he's signed. Yeah, I'm just. I'm still thinking about. I get flashbacks, Shrewsbury flashbacks. They want to announce it by then.
Right. Are they not worried about other teams coming in, given that?
Not at this point in time. No, they seem to think they got him in place, and there's a few I's to be dotted and T's to be crossed. But it will be done this week and possibly announced as early as next weekend.
Well, that's positive. That's positive at least. So Hull and Wolves away this week. Seems it doesn't come much tougher than that, does it? You've got a Hull team looking at the automatic spots, and Wolves just 3 points behind Cardiff. We've got 2 home games.
It's so hard to call. That was, because we've got such a lack of consistency. We can go and win those 2 games and lose the next 3. That's that's the nature of the beast. You beat Hull, you beat Wolves, or you could lose both games. I just don't know.
I'd be amazed if they won at Hull. Personally,
I'd be amazed if they win either game. To be honest with you, I think they're a big ask. But are they capable? Yeah. Are they playing well enough? Sometimes they are, sometimes they ain't. Do you understand me? It always comes back to consistency. You can't build anything, yeah? And you can't, I can't give you a foresight of how I see the future without the consistency in the team. And like I said to Tux yesterday, we live in this Cardiff bubble. Don't forget, mind, Hull, Derby, Middlesbrough, all these teams, they want it just as much as you do, if not more. Do you know what I mean? You've come down 2 years ago. Middlesbrough been out of it for years. Derby been out of it for years. Yeah. These want it.
Those 2 have had mid-table obscurity stuff down their necks.
So it's not a case of just what we do. You've got to understand that there's others who are also improving, also developing, getting better, getting stronger.
Well, to be honest, you've
watched Middlesbrough over 3 years become stronger each season, haven't you?
They're playing in front of big crowds at big stadiums with top managers with European experience. They have a different plan to Cardiff City.
But we said last week, I think these things go in cycles, don't they? Maybe Cardiff are bottoming. Crikey, it could get a lot worse. But maybe, obviously. But I mean,
that's positive.
Perhaps this is.
I don't think this is part of a. This is part of a cycle. But I think that's completely beside the point of how things are being run. You're in a cycle of downturn, even though you're sat in 9th. You're in a circle of you're sat in 9th and you've got very few fans. You're in a cycle of downturn because of decision making, basically. That's what it boils down to.
Babe, then. Decision making, babe.
Decision making, baby cake.
Baby cake.
Do you understand what I mean? So you've created.
I keep thinking about that jacuzzi all the time.
You've created your own cycle, your own downturn in your own cycle. Anyway,
right.
So listen. And you say, right, let's find the positives and things like that. The only positive is that if you get your form sorted, they could go on some miraculous run till the end of the season. But that's what they're going to need.
The big thing for me is this Watt signing and bringing someone in to play with him.
So you think they'll get two strikers?
I think that they'll sign Watt permanently, and they want to get a winger and like a Kenwyn like-for-like replacement. For me, that Kenwyn like-for-like replacement is a massive signing, because if
Peter Crouch on loan,
I don't know, but I mean, if they can get the right guy in that complements Watt, you've got that busy thing then you've got, they got the options, they can go long to, they can play. That new target guy, that's absolutely pivotal. And if that guy could bring with him 10 goals between now and the end of the season, then they can make the playoffs.
See, Jeff,
and if he can bring 3 wise men with him too.
And then maybe I can go off with a supermodel later this year.
You see pretty much every game. I mean, do you think, you genuinely think that this team can make the playoffs this season?
I'm talking to somebody, a guy I know called me up, and I was saying to him, have you seen any championship side this term, really? I mean, even Brighton, when where you've got, wow. You always get one when Blakey was in that Bolton side, or when you
but Borough started to look like that.
Yeah, and Borough are improving. But I mean, I haven't seen anyone playing that I've seen and gone, wow, that's it. Everyone to me looks much of a muchness to me, and that's why I think they can make the playoffs. But they're going to have to make.
They're not playing well enough.
The critical side, though, and as Blakey says, the word consistency. They've won 2 games on the bounce once, back in August and September. You do not get in the playoffs doing that all season. You just cannot. You at one point have to win 3 or 4 on the bounce and force yourself up in there.
I think Kenwyn going, you'll see now how much he's missed.
Yeah.
When you haven't got him as an option, either to come off the bench as an impact or to start and frighten defences. I think you'll see now the difference, because I've seen it myself this season, where I've seen centre halves who have looked quite comfortable, and Kenwyn comes off the bench, and their joy of the last 60 minutes of winning every header is over. You know what I mean? They're now getting beat up. They're now jumping into a brick wall. They can't shift and what have you. Then he goes and gets himself a goal. I just think, regardless of what anyone says, I think you are going to see him. You're going to see a big hole now. They're going to have to fill that void. I think
he can be replaced.
Oh yeah, anyone can be replaced.
It was fascinating.
Anyone can be replaced.
It was fascinating for me, Blake. We've spoken about Kenwyn a lot, and I know you were quite a fan of his. And as was I, and then suddenly Ian Holloway picked him out in the Live Sky game against Birmingham, and basically showed 4, 5, 6 clips of him saying he was lazy, and all of a sudden fan opinion seemed to turn on Kenwyn.
Yeah, but Ian Holloway is giving an opinion that's his opinion. Yeah. Now Ian Holloway has had good, bad, indifferent moments of management. It's okay pointing the finger and saying, when you're set in a studio, but I would have preferred Ian Holloway to sit and analyse the team and say, right, if you want to play a high pressing game, you ain't going to start with someone like Kenwyn up front. It's all relative.
Yeah.
If you're going to play with wingers who come inside, you don't play with large target man. Do you know what I mean? So Ian Holloway digging out one player is typical of that mentality for me, yeah, because you don't dig out one player. One player doesn't make a team, never has done. And that's from a so-called experienced manager who's been around the game for 30, 40 years,
that's
played
why
the game
people,
and everything.
People respected his opinion because of that.
And that's what I'm saying. I'm saying, okay, I could go and say, right, Pilkington, how many crosses have you put in for Kenwyn? Right? You don't buy a player and say, right, of Kenwyn's stature, and say, I need to work hard, close it down. Because when it comes to then balls in the box, age, bumps, bruises, when it comes to balls in the box, he's not going to have the same prowess he would if he's got to conserve energy. His size, his stature tells you that. Do you know what I mean? He's not like these modern day waifs of footballers, skinny, and covers 9 kilometres in, 90 minutes. You're never going to get that.
He doesn't cover 9 kilometres.
Do you know what I mean? It's the same as Andy Carroll. I bet you if Holloway was analysing Andy Carroll, whose game is largely similar to Kenwyn's, I bet he wouldn't nail him. That's why people like that. I'm like, that's easy target, mate. Yeah?
I think by then as well,
that's
Kenwyn
easy target. And Kenwyn had given up.
This is what I was going to ask you.
He was on his way out.
This moment, say from just before Christmas, that he seemed to turn. Do you think?
Well, I think it was as soon as we revealed that he was maybe going to be offered a new contract, and despite what he said, I understand that it was I don't think anyone walked in and goes, here's the contract, sign it, but I think there were negotiations. I think as soon as we revealed that contract was going to ask him to slash his money, I think he knew he was going to go.
That's what they're saying.
Yeah.
If you're from a player's perspective, if the club you're playing for asks you to take a cut, and okay, he was in the Premier League when he took the wage, but if you're talking like you're on 30 grand a week and someone's paying you 25, you say, well, it's not much for muchness. If you're on 30 grand a week and someone's paying you, saying they're going to pay you 18, then that's
it's a sensible pay cut, isn't it? It's either you give them a sensible deal, or you just
have to accept that people move on and leave.
Yeah, I'm not saying it wasn't a contract or an offer that wasn't designed to get him out the door.
Yeah, indeed. Really? Well, the other interesting story since last week was Weghorst. What happened there? Him.
I can't even say his name.
What went on there?
Well, that was
one definitely. You'd have to ask him his name first.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like Dickatree.
Another one.
Yeah.
It was all really weird. Well, it was all strange. Obviously, these reports coming out of Holland saying, from their chairman, Hercules chairman, saying, Cardiff we've accepted an offer. Weghorst himself saying Cardiff's my destination. From what I understand, and you know when I say that, what I mean, there was no offer. There was an early inquiry and an offer made, and the asking price at that point was just put Cardiff off. This recent thing, I'm told that there wasn't an offer. I didn't have an offer accepted, and there was no other offer made. And
that's what I read it. Yeah.
Those reports just came out of Holland and were they believe designed to kind to drum it. I mean, I saw Celtic got dragged into it later. You know what the machinations of the transfer window were like.
That could be just his agent.
From what I know, is Hercules have been contacting Cardiff. Saying, when are you buying this guy? When are you buying this guy? And they're saying, look, we're not interested. We're not interested.
I know where you got that from.
Sources.
At Cardiff.
At the club, at Cardiff, yeah. That they've been.
Like I said, that could be a curveball.
Seems like the sort of player that would get a bit of excitement going, though. I mean,
Yeah. I don't think saying all that, I don't think it's totally out of the way. What I think is happening at Cardiff, in a way, is there seems to be a feeling at Cardiff that if they hold, it's like a game of poker. They're feeling if they hold their nerve during the transfer window now, they're gonna. I mean, somebody said to me, prices are already coming down. Do you know what I mean? As the window goes on. So, I've been told highly unlikely. Slade said that himself. I'm not completely ruling it out, but he's certainly not top of their list. And I'm not. I don't think it was as close to happening because that one night on social media, I actually thought he'd signed. I saw so many stories about him. I was freaked out.
But it's fine. I mean, other teams around Cardiff, your Sheffield Wednesdays, your Derbies, they're starting to spend now, and you do worry that Cardiff could just get timed out on some of these deals and could end up
working. Processes, as Russell Slade. There are processes.
Okay, we're coming.
From your sources, who's the how's the recruitment work overall and the signing? Who goes and identifies the players? Who then?
Obviously scouts and Slade, Russell Slade.
Scouts, as in European scouts.
Yeah, European scouts all across, right across Europe. Russell Slade himself with his recommendations, and he's part of the transfer committee. Sounds like the escape committee.
Isn't there 4 of them on there?
I can't.
Is it like Ken Chu,
Dowman's on there?
Dowman,
and Slade, and is it
the owner?
I'm not sure the owner's on there. I mean, he obviously presides over it.
But he's
the final say. As the final
so
say.
They'll come up with a list of players, or they'll come up with a player, say then, and sort of put a deal together, and then call the owner and say, "This is how much
I think the list will be run by him. This is how number one time they'll get a yay or nay. Look at him, look at that kind of thing, and then. Once it's been decided, it's up then to the likes of the chairman to try to broker these deals, which is quite, it's not, as Tom Jones says, it's not unusual.
No. Okay, we're starting right out of time, but one great question from Carl, which I quite like. Tell us the truth. Would you pay to watch City?
Good question, Carlo.
Somebody asked me that.
That's a great question, especially after last week.
Would you have paid last night to go and watch that?
In hindsight,
I wouldn't have gone last night because it was on the telly.
Okay.
Okay.
The next home game then.
Yes, I would pay.
You would.
You know, he has to say that.
Hey, well,
after last week, he has to say that. He has to say that after last week.
There's people still crying
Well,
after
great
my
question.
speech.
He has to say that. He has to stand by
I
it.
still say that you go down. I mean, crikey, when I wasn't a football writer, or whatever I am now, to be honest, I used
Money
to go
too
to,
tight to mention, man, to be saying that.
When I,
You're going to
no,
pay
no,
out
no,
your
I can't
hard-earned
afford
dollars
it.
on
But
something that you no longer affiliate so closely with, you don't no longer feel is being run right. You no longer enjoy the experience. Why are you going to spend money on that?
I used to like, personally, this is me, I used to like everything that surrounded going to the game.
Yeah, man.
You had to sometimes going to with what was on the pitch, but you know, I just like meeting friends and having the odd beer and
just you
talking
then, guys,
and shouting and acting like a fool, and you know, and the same with away games, but even more so. I used to love, you know, travelling and meet people.
Christmas time, jingle bells,
jingle,
and you
jingle
win
all the way,
Cardiff,
and getting like great texts from your missus saying, "Where the hell are you?" Oh, I'm in, you know, Sheffield.
I think mine was in your hour.
I know it. But so I liked all that. But if people are falling out of love with it, I can't really, and I can't blame them. And I can't, like anybody can't seem to come up with a definitive, like, right, let's do this. This is going to solve it, because as Blakey said, there's a myriad reasons. Everyone seems to have their own, and that's that. But I do fear that we're going to lose a generation of fans, and it's going to be to the detriment of the club.
Yeah, I mean, having paid for several games this season myself, it's not the same as it was.
Several games
this season I've paid to attend, and I feel a bit like that.
Yeah.
And it is nowhere near the same as it was.
No?
Even,
I haven't been as a fan for so
3, 4,
long.
5 years
I've
ago.
kind of forgotten what it's like.
It just isn't.
Unfortunately.
Anyway, let's just we've got 1 minute to go. Predictions.
Is this show timed? Is it?
Well,
I didn't realise.
We try and keep it.
We just sort of drifted on air at a certain point. Then it was like, oh, we've run out of stuff to say now.
Lunchtime ends for most of the viewers at.
They're lucky to have a lunch. You don't have it in this game. I tell you, Pamp's luxury.
So we got a bonus. We got 2 predictions to do. Hull on Wednesday first, and then we'll do Saturday at Wolves.
I'll go 2-0 Hull on Wednesday and 1-1 on Saturday. Myself.
Okay, that's reasonable. It's better than some of the predictions I've seen here. I've got a 4-0
optimistic. That's the worry, right?
I got a 4-0 Hull, 3-0 Wolves slate to get sacked.
I'll go draw. I'll go lost draw. I think we'll lose that one and win it.
Yeah, that's what I said.
Draw. Yeah.
In a more exact nature.
That if that is the scenario, then you know, the playoffs will drift ever further away. And
look, I've always said it, Gaz. I never believed we've got enough, but I've never seen anything that's made me think we've clicked. We're going to be beating teams before we even arrived. People are worried. At this stage, you've got to have a partnership or a striker who's on 18 goals, 17 goals, 16 goals. Yeah. You know, midfield pairing, which people talk about. You know, I hear lots about Derby's front of midfield, Middlesbrough's front of midfield. You know, Ipswich, I hear quite a bit about their front players.
Sheffield Wednesday.
Yeah. You saying we don't hear much about Ravel? Come off it.
We're not in that. We're not in that position. I don't feel. I think we got a good squad of players that could, with a very astute manager, get into the playoffs and do okay. But I just don't think we're equipped, mate. To be honest with you.
I think, like Blakey says in his column today, I agree that forget the whole game. There's that Wolves, is it Rotherham, Huddersfield, MK Don. I think there's like 5 runs of games and they got Brighton then at the end of it.
They got two difficult, 3 what you would say are easier on paper, and then you got that game where you think to yourself.
And I think that's going to go a long way, because I think we might be sitting in the Bootroom by then saying,
yeah, I think we could be saying that this time next week, personally. But
it's all over. But no, I do hope, and I really hope they make some good, because I disagree, please. I think they are trying in this window.
Yeah, well, let's hope so. That could be key. That could be.
Yeah, I think that's going to be vital.
That could be key. Okay, well, thanks for joining us, and plenty of Cardiff City coverage.
Keep your chins up, people. And we will be back. Don't worry.
And we'll see you back here next week.
Forever.
Thank you very much.